Who's next? Where are we headed next? That'd be Paul in Saginaw, Michigan. Hello, sir. Great to have you here on the EIB network. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Long-time listener since 1999. I just wanted to call and put in my 2 cents. I don't know if you can hear me good. I'm in a car, but I got to touch on speakerphone.
I hear you fine.
I think in a nutshell, with Trump, Carson, and somewhat of Cruz, what you're looking at is the outsiders, the common sense. I think Trump equals simplicity. Now, some people will shriek when you say that, but I think that's really what it comes down to, common sense. You know, what does it take to be a politician? You know, what do you need a resume to be a president? You know, what should be on that? And I think, you know, it's just common sense anymore. To survive in this world, you need common sense. To run a business, you need common sense. You don't need to be a politician. And I think people are just sick and tired of politicians.
I think that's right on the money. I mean, essentially, let me put it this way. People are trying to say that Trump is simplistic, and that's what you're reacting to. And when they say simplistic, then that means simpleton, and then it means unsophisticated, and then it goes on to mean uneducated and unprepared and unserious and all of that. And, of course, none of those things actually do go together in anybody, particularly about Trump. The reason why the political world is like any other elite business. It has evolved or created its own language that is exclusionary. High finance has its own language. The medical community has its own. Politics has its own way of speaking. And it's an art in many cases. Politics is the art of not telling anybody what you believe very passionately. And that's not easy to do. It's not easy to say nothing passionately. That's the art in politics, to have a lot of passion, a lot of energy, but not tell anybody what you really think because you don't want to be wedded to things. In the process, you portray yourself as fluid and brilliant and open-minded and willing to accept any new thing that comes your way. You are not close-minded, and simpletons are, you see. People are simplistic and see black and white but no gray, see right and wrong but they don't see any maybe. Those are simpletons. Those are people that are kind of short on gray cells. And we in politics, we are brilliant and we're sophisticated and we speak intellectual ease. It's its own dialect of English, and it has its own accents and its own special words. And it's been this way for so long. If somebody comes along like Trump and or Ben Carson that just speaks average, ordinary, everyday common sense, it stands out like bright sunlight at midnight would. It's shocking. Do you remember the movie Being There with Peter Sellers? He was he was a gardener, and all he knew was gardening. And he related everything to gardening. In fact, he didn't relate anything else. He watched television and tended the garden. He was a servant of some wealthy Washington. So the servant dies, and this guy becomes homeless. I don't know what to do with him. And he ends up meeting some super powerful power broker in D.C., and he starts talking about the way he tends his garden, and this power broker thinks it's brilliant. And he says things, in the spring, we renew, and life begins anew. And this guy thinks, my God, I've never heard it said so simply. And they start celebrating this simpleton as one of the most brilliant politicians, and everybody wants this guy's opinion on things, and he doesn't have the slightest idea what's going on. He has no clue. They think he's brilliant. He doesn't know why they want to talk to him. All he's doing is answering questions in terms of gardening, which is all he understands. They are assuming that he is worldly much more than they are. It's a classic. It's a classic illustration of, in fact, during the Obama campaign, I thought many people were reacting to Obama the way the gardener was reacted to in that movie, the way Peter Sellers was. That the way he said what he said was considered to be, my God, so smart, so brilliant, I'm blinded by it, when it wasn't anything. He wasn't saying diddly squat that made any sense. It just sounded good. Now, in Trump's case, Trump is two things. His common sense is not simplistic. It's just right on the money. And there isn't any hemming or hawing. There's no indecision in what Trump says. You don't get the impression that he's undecided about anything. And you don't get the impression he's afraid to tell you. In politics, you contrast that. Over in the political world, they are scared to death to be wedded to any particular position because they want the flexibility to move off of it tomorrow. They don't want to be locked in or committed to anything today. And by the way, there have been in the world of politics people just like that who have been wedded to issues, and you could count on them, and they triumphed. But we have politics today is the art of saying nothing with great passion. Politics is the art of convincing people you're something that you're not, and it's disguised as super intellectualism, brilliance. It takes a requirement of many years' experience to understand these things. You neophytes outside, yes, you're the voters, and yes, we love you, but you don't know nearly enough to judge what we do here. And Trump comes along, and his common sense is so stark, and same with Ben Carson, and in some cases even Fiorina, some things she's saying, it is so stark in comparison to what we get from both parties in Washington that people are just latching onto it because it's comforting. It's common sense. It's spoken fearlessly. So it's not simplistic, and it's not. And the caller didn't say it was. He was agreeing with me essentially here. But I think it's just because of the stark contrast in the manner of speaking here that has overtaken Washington. It's one of the reasons why there's so much distrust. Is that you can't even for sure find out what those people inside the Beltway really do think about something. You get the impression that whatever they're saying, it's designed to not anger you or to not send you running away. But it doesn't at the same time come across as sincere. Anyway, take a time out. Time rolls on. Back with more after this. Sit.